Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. You might think in the days of the polymer wonders and more companies coming out with them that DASA guns like this would be obsolete, but that's far from the truth. These are still very popular today, not just with the older crowd, but the younger generation is also seeing the value of this type of design. I've got a friend of mine who has a P226, it's his only gun, it's his defensive gun. It's also a range gun. So this technology is not over with. This one is a Sig P229. This one happens to be a Talo edition. So it was a short run, limited edition that was produced for the distributor Talo. And this is a CZ P07, which was just a regular Market 1 market available. They're very similar in many ways and different in a few that might make you decide maybe between one of these two. They're not necessarily direct competitors, but they are very similar in design, and you might be, as you're shopping for it, be looking at the Sig and finding that the price tag, which the MSRP on these is $850 and up, might be a little bit scary. You might be looking at the CZs, their MSRP is around $510, and of course in current market conditions things are kind of wild, but under normal conditions these both tend to sell right around their MSRP, give or take a little bit, because both of these tend to be a little less available than, let's say, the Glocks and Springfields under normal circumstances. Both of these companies, their websites can be difficult to decode. Both of them do distributor exclusives, so you'll find variations of these two basic designs. The Sig's constantly changing their lineup. It's always the same basic gun, but it'll have different colors, different grips, different sight combinations. They do a lot of what I like to call marketing packages. CZ does a little less of that, but they will do various distributor exclusives. So you might see a variation of either one of these guns that's different than this, but it'll be the same basic functionality. Mostly what changes is, again, color schemes and sights. So I mentioned sights, so let's talk about those for a second. Most of the P229s you're going to see have the Sig Light night sights. You will find variations that have regular sights. The sights are metal, and they're really easy and clear to see. One thing about the Sig lights is they're easy to see during the day and they're easy to see at night. Now sometimes, depending on lighting, the back one may tend to gray out a little bit when you're looking at it in certain lighting conditions, especially indoor ranges, but overall they're pretty easy to see. The P07 has regular white 3-dot sights. They're very clear, very easy to see, very easy to work with. And this one is also, you'll find variations of it with tritium sights. These sights are metal as well. Quality on both of these guns is very high, so really there's not a quality difference between them. There are some design differences that may change felt recoil and the overall experience. So this particular video is more of a mashup comparing similar designs, but they do tend to run in different markets, different crowds. It's not a pure matchup, but when you're shopping, you are often comparing across those lines. So we'll probably do a few more of these mashup style videos as opposed to one-to-one apples to apples matchups as we compare different types of guns, because when you're shopping you're not necessarily sold that it's got to be exactly like this, but I want it in a different brand. Usually you're looking for different features and characteristics. So let's talk about some of the different features and characteristics. First one's obvious, the Sig is pretty. All of them are. There are various colors, even the black nitron one, which is very similar color to the CZ, just has some real class to it. You have interchangeable grips. This particular one has wraparound grip, and it's a wooden grip. You can get different combinations of G10 grips, rubber grips, all sorts of different grips, and there's a number of third parties that make grips for these. The CZ is a polymer frame. The grips are what they are. You can change the back straps. It comes with several back straps to change the overall size and feel. But this is the way a grip is, and that's the way it's going to stay. Both of them have nice undercuts, so you can get right up on there. So I got a hold of the CZ or the Sig. They feel different. The overall shape of the grip is different. This is a little bit more rounder, and the CZ is a little more oblong, your classic striker kind of shape. Both of them have large trigger guards, so you can get gloved hands in there. And both of them, as I mentioned earlier, are DASA. So let's talk about the trigger a little bit, and we'll talk about the dimensions. The triggers functionally work similar. So this, we'll start with the CZ. It has a very smooth, but a little bit on the heavy side. It's about a 9.5 pound pull. And I'm going to cycle it. Oops, would help if I pop the magazine. There's the reset. A little on the longer side for this style trigger, and there is some take-up, which is unusual with a DISA. And then the brake again. The brake is really light, very crisp. It's right around 4 pounds. So they have a very nice trigger. And this is their Omega trigger system. It's a modular trigger that is easy to maintain. And one of the things you can do with it is you can change this out, which by the way is ambidextrous. So let's do that again. I got distracted. Somebody's out there with a lawnmower, so I had paused. So I'm going to cock the gun. What is ambidextrous is the decocker safety. It's on both sides. What I had pointed to earlier was the slide stop slide release. This was set up as a decocker. So when it decocks, there's a little bit of a stop, so the hammer is not sitting on the firing pin. There's also an internal piston style firing pin block like you're used to in most of the modern guns. So this is a decocker only at the moment. With parts that come in the box and only minimal tools, anybody can easily change this out to be a safety, at which point you can carry it cocked and locked. So this particular gun, the CZ with the Omega trigger, any of the CZs with the Omega trigger, you have your choice of decocker or cocked and locked, whichever it is that you happen to prefer. I tend to not like thumb safeties, and I don't like to carry cocked and locked, so I have this one set for decocker. It really doesn't matter which way it comes from the factory. All of the parts that you would need to switch it are right there. The Sig, on the other hand, we'll talk about its trigger. Pull the magazine. It has a little heavier, a little bit longer, with a little bit of stacking. Comes in around 10.5 pounds on the double action mode. It's still nice and it's still smooth, but that stacking at the end kind of, depreciates it from a little bit. And I'll show you again. There, and I'll do the reset. Now this one has an awesome reset, but I want to make sure that you understand that this one is a Talo exclusive. It came with the factory SRT, short reset trigger, so it came right from Sig with that trigger. The normal reset is a little closer to what the CZ has, but if you get one that has the SRT trigger in it, it's an awesome, really short reset. You're right on the wall, and then the brake. The brake on this is around 5 pounds. So the Sig has the potential for a much better trigger if you get one with the SRT, which you can either get from a factory or you can install later. The fire control group's a little more complicated. I'm going to cock this one. Sig comes in one flavor, decocker. So the Sig, you're not going to be in a position to carry cocked and locked. It also has the rebounding hammer, and it also has the internal firing pin safeties. So this is all the same safeties that the CZ does. You just don't have the option of setting this one up for a thumb safety only. Comes with the decocker, and that's the way it works. Now it is possible that they still make the SA only version of this. I'd have to check to see if they still do that. And that actually came with a thumb safety. This was replaced with a thumb safety. But there's nothing convertible about it. Whichever version you get, what you buy is what you got. That's not a major negative. You get what you like. The nice thing about the CZ is you don't have to hunt around for it. If you can find one, regardless of how it's set up, you can make it what you like. Both of them have Picatinny rail. Both of them have front and rear side slide serrations. The slide on the CZ is characteristic of the CZ design. It's a low profile. The slide rails operate opposite, so they're in the slide and it drops down into the frame, as opposed to the Sig and most other guns where the guides are on the inside of the slide and sits on top of the frame. That can make a difference in just the way the felt recoil and the movement of the gun. From a dimension standpoint, they're similar enough to not matter. The P07 is 7.2 inches long, the Sig is 7.1 inches long, the CZ is 1.46 inches wide, the Sig is 1.5, so the CZ is a little bit thinner, but not appreciably. They're both similar in height. The P07 is 5.3 inches tall with a flush mount magazine, and the Sig is 5.4 inches tall with a flush mount magazine. So smaller in one dimension, larger in the other. Where they are going to be different in it, that it's actually going to matter, is the weight. So the P07, because it has a polymer frame, is 27.7 ounces. The Sig is 34.4 ounces. So much heavier gun in the Sig, and you feel it when you're moving them around in your hand, just swinging them around, doing what I'm doing here. You can feel the weight of the Sig, and if you're in competition, a lot of times that weight can help with recoil, but more often than that, not that weight interferes with moving the gun quickly. So you'll find that the CZs, whether they're the metal frame or the polymer frame variant, are really popular in the competition crowd. Fewer competition people use the P07. They tend to P09, P01, SP01, the variations. But the Sig has kind of got a very strong, or I'm sorry, the CZ's got a strong following in the competition area. And there's some just hardcore Sig fans that love the various DASA hammer-fired guns from Sig, and most of them tend to be alloy frames. They're really nice guns, whether you're getting a 229 or a 226. The Sig does make a very good gun. They've got this territory mastered quite well. From a capacity perspective, they're similar with one exception. So they both have 15 round magazines. They're double stack magazines. They're metal magazines. The CZ comes with, in the box, a little base plate here that not only gives you a pinky extender, so I'll put that in the gun, so it gives you a full 3-finger grip, but it also adds 1 round of capacity. That's really easy to install, and it's up to you whether or not you choose to put it on or whether you want to stick with the flush mount, which gives you still a 3-finger grip, just not a little bit of overhang here. It's got a little bit of a lip on it, and back to the 15 round capacity. Overall, whichever one of these you choose, I'll show you the Sig with the flush magazine, you're about the same. A little bit longer grip, your whole 3rd finger fits as is, and it has just a hair of a lip coming forward to give you the Sig. And both of these can use the magazines from their larger versions, so you can put a 226 mag in here, it'll just hang down, and you can put a P09 mag in this one, and again it'll just hang down. So you have that same flexibility that you've become used to with several of the other guns on the market today, where you can use the larger mags but have the smaller frame. Both of these are a pleasure to shoot. They both feel different. So at the range they both feel different, but either one of these is equally able to be shot well. Before you choose one of these, you may actually want to pick one up and hold it, because you are going to find that with the different grip styles, this one kind of being a little bit fatter and rounder, and this one being a little bit oblong, it may affect how it fits in your hand, and it may affect how you personally are able to shoot it well. Both of these are easy to clean and maintain. Both of these have been very, very reliable. They tend to eat just about anything, whether it's good ammo or junk ammo. And of course, in the current market conditions, you use what you can get your hands on. I have no concerns that if I take one of these out with whatever it is that I can get today, they're just both going to work. They're just a pleasure to have, they're a pleasure to shoot, and they're a pleasure to work with. Getting down to what would I choose, if I were looking for one that I intended to just use as a defensive weapon, use it heavily, shoot it a lot, I would choose the CZ. It's just a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to manage the recoil, just the shape of it fits in my hand a little bit better. If I want something that is just showstopper beautiful, that it's going to look nice and still a good gun, then the Sig would come into play, because you've got your classic metal frame, heavier, and really decorative gun. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everywhere. Thank you.
Well, these, I say, the brass on these.